Get ready. Helena Hustle is now live. Here, we will showcase successful leaders in business, athletics, healthcare, and all things that make Helena a great place to live. Join Dr. Daniel Bridge, owner of Endurance Chiropractic, as he searches out amazing individuals who are making a tremendous difference in this place we call home. So sit back, relax, and get ready to be inspired with the Helena Hustle podcast.
Emma, thank you so much for coming on to Helena Hustle. Emma is it Emma Mangum Design or Mangum Design?
Actually, it's now Someday Design Studio.
Oh, that's right. I saw that on your Facebook.
Yep.
So it's what? Someday?
Someday Design Studio.
Tell me about the name choice.
Yeah. So, we rebranded back at the beginning of June, and it had been Mangum Design Co. for almost 5 years at that point. And I had started the business just thinking it was just going to be me doing design work on my own. And, after moving here to Helena about a year ago now, I grew to love what I do even more and want to share it with more people. And I didn't want to be the one piece that makes it work. So I decided rather than having it all revolve around me, I wanted to be able to expand that, have more people to be able to help serve more businesses. So we knew we needed to change the name. And we were trying to think of names. And
who's we?
Me and my husband, who is my sounding board for everything. So yeah, I say we. It's a royal we, and my husband hears everything with the business. So, and we joke that our little almost 4-year-old is our intern. So family business, most of it not voluntary.
Right.
But the name choice. So I was trying to think of a name that would work, and fit us and fit the vision of where I wanted to take this business now. That was much bigger than me finally, and just started thinking of conversations I'd had with people in the past, especially business owners. Someday I'll get around to doing that. I have these ideas, and someday when I have the time, we'll make it happen.
Oh, right.
And a lot of times the idea around the word someday is like putting this off or procrastination or, one day future me will deal with that. But it's not making those things happen now. And so I wanted to take that name and use it, but kind of turn it on its head. So, me and hopefully soon a team of other designers and brand strategists will help turn your someday ideas into reality today.
Cool.
Because a lot of people's ideas for someday take a lot of work. Yep. Or a lot of things that you don't know. And so we will be able to make that process easy and simple.
It's kind of a harsh realization for someone when, I've gone through this a million times, but I start my business and I have a vision of what I want my business and a list of things I need to get done. I got to get my logo done. I got to get my name. And you soon realize, especially if the business starts growing and getting busy, first of all, you don't really have the skill and the talent to do everything. And then you don't have the time to do everything. Yep. So it just never gets done. So that's cool. And it's smart because if you ever get to the point where you want to sell your business, it's harder to sell Mangum Design. A lot of chiropractors do that. They'll have Bridge Chiropractic. And then they don't think, 30 years from now when I want to sell, that's a harder transition for someone to want to buy. So for us, Endurance Chiropractic, it's an easier transition. Yeah.
Right now, it's just been me. It's not a big deal. I have to do everything in my business, everything from the emails and invoicing to every single detail in the client projects. It's all me. Right. But I love the idea of it being able to grow to a point where I can have more flexibility to be with my family and bring other people on that share that passion for serving business owners and graphic design, and being able to give them more of a hand in the business, or be able to hand the business off to someone and take a step back. Awesome. And so that name change is a big part of that for me.
When's your goal? When would you like to have somebody join you?
Within the next year would be amazing.
Sweet.
Yep.
Cool. Okay, I'm going to call you August 9th, 2024, and you better have somebody by then. So
perfect.
Okay, Emma. So let's get to the 2 truths and a lie. Did you think of something?
I always think I'm a very boring person, so I had to ask a few people for help with this. But okay, so first one, I was my husband's 12th blind date in a row.
Wow. And
I've been bungee jumping twice, and I spent 3 weeks traveling through Europe when I was in college.
The 12 dates, that sounds too specific to not be true and funny. Interesting. I don't see you bungee jumping. Is that the lie?
It's the lie.
Okay.
But I think it would be really fun.
It would be. That's
It'd
on
be
my bucket
terrifying.
list. You'd do it though?
I would do it. I'd be terrified, but I would totally do it.
I'm dying to do it. And I've talked to my wife, and I'll always ask her, how much money would it take to get you to go bungee jumping? No amount of money. I'm like, obviously there's an amount of money, but I can never actually get her to say something. So, okay, so let's start with Europe.
Yeah.
You did how long?
3 weeks. So my background's in landscape architecture. That's my college degree, and I worked full-time in that for about 4 years. But while I was in school, I fell in love with graphic design. And so that's where the idea for my business started. But with the Europe things, we were required to do a study abroad as part of our studies. And the year that I went, we went to Spain and Portugal.
Dang.
And spent a couple of weeks there touring some really amazing places, focusing on landscape architecture, but also the culture and the people.
I was going to say, I'd be focusing on the food.
Oh, yeah.
What was the best thing you ate?
Had a really great paella.
Which is what?
It's rice with some veggies and chickens, seafood, that sort of thing in it. So,
and where was that at?
That was in Portugal.
Cool.
Yeah, my favorite place I visited was a little town called Sintra. And it's like this little town on the side of a mountain off the coast of Lisbon. And there was this, I'm blanking on the name now, but this villa and an estate that was designed by a set designer. So the people that would make the sets for plays way back in like the 1800s, this guy hired a set designer to design his landscape. And so it had secret tunnels and hidden passageways and towers and stuff. So I'm sure it was really funny to see like 20-something-year-olds running around this property, but it was beautiful. So cool.
That's cool. I'm jealous. I'd like to do that someday. And so your husband, he's a trooper. Does he enjoy, or did he enjoy blind dates, or was he just persistent and sticking with it?
So I like to think that just everyone noticed that my husband was such a catch. He's just a really great guy and one of the kindest people, really good friend. And he just happened to have a lot of friends that all got married, and they wanted him to be married too.
They all wanted to set him up.
So they all got to set him up. I asked him today if he remembers all of those blind dates, and he says he remembers the 12th one.
There
I'm
you go.
like, that's good. But the rest of them were kind of blurry, so we'll have to see if we can figure some of those out.
Yeah, funny. And so what's your connection? Who set you guys up?
So I have a twin sister, and she met him at a wedding.
Identical?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And she was a bridesmaid in the wedding. He was a groomsman. And she was married at this point. And her husband recognized him from the back of his head. They had a physics class together. And so he's like, hey, I have some little connection to you.
Yeah.
You should hang out with us for all the wedding. And found out he was from Montana. We grew up in Billings. So
you both did?
Yeah.
Okay,
so Jake grew up here in Helena.
But you met at a wedding, not in Billings?
No. So we both went to school at Utah State. Or
they did?
Yeah. Yeah, and the wedding was down in Utah. And they just both happened to know the couple from different connections. But they spent the wedding day hanging out. And about a week later, he gets a text from her husband saying, hey, Katie wants to set you up with her sister. So, and I met him, and I was not terribly interested at first, but he won me over.
There you go.
I joke that he was tired of dating. 12 dates in a row, like that's some sort of record, and he didn't want to keep it going. Yeah. So he's like, okay, she's the one.
That's funny.
He'll disagree.
So does he ever like accidentally put his arm around your sister or something at a group gathering?
Actually, he's never done that with my twin sister, but I've heard that I look somewhat similar to one of his other sisters.
Okay.
And there was one of his other sisters got married, and we were in the wedding. We both had our hair curled. We're wearing the same dress, and our husbands got us mixed up at one point. It was pretty funny.
That is funny.
So.
And then, okay, so you guys got married when?
October 21st of 2017.
2017.
Yep.
And then what brought you to Helena?
So a year ago, my husband took a job with Fish, Wildlife, and Parks. So we were living in Billings at the time, and I had left my full-time job as a landscape designer at that point to run my business full-time, and he loved the work he was doing for this private civil engineering firm over there, and just was missing having a little bit of flexibility with his time and getting to be outside the office and things like that. And he saw a job opening with Fish, Wildlife, and Parks, actually working just down the hall from his dad. And he applied and actually thought he had no chance, but they liked him and offered him a job. And 3 weeks later, we moved here.
Okay. And that's been how long?
A year ago.
1 year?
About a week ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. And then did you have your design company before you moved here?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
So I started my company actually about a month or so after I graduated college. So I graduated in 2018 with a degree in landscape architecture. And at that point, I no longer had like 2 or 3 jobs and homework and projects and dating and all this stuff. I just had my one full-time job.
Yeah.
And so I had all this free time. No kids yet. And so I was like, I guess I'll just start a business. And I had fallen in love with graphic design while in school. I learned the same programs in landscape architecture, but for making presentations and slideshows and documents and renderings and things like that. And so I got a couple jobs with their Utah State's College of Engineering and their USU Student Media Group as their graphic designer. So anything from advertising and marketing events and Christmas cards or proposals and research papers and stuff, the newspaper, magazines, that sort of thing. And I fell in love with it. And when I graduated, I didn't want to stop, but I also didn't want to stop landscape architecture. And so I decided that, hey, we'll start this business so I can keep doing, both. I can work full time for someone else doing landscape and keep doing my fun graphic design stuff on the side, with the hope that one day, if things get crazy and I need to take a step back from working full time so that I can be there more for my family, I could do that. And so my old logo had this little leaf in it. And to some people, it might look kind of generic. You see logos with leaves in them all the time. But it was actually based on this necklace Jake had given me for our first anniversary. And really pretty. And it was funny when he gave it to me. I was like, oh, this is beautiful. Where'd you get it from? And he said, oh, you'll never guess. And I said, is it from Cabela's? And he said, how'd you know? And I didn't. I just guessed. But it was a funny necklace. And just poor college students, he'd bought this cute necklace for me. And so I would wear that all the time. It would remind me of him. And so when I made my first real logo for my own business, I put that in there because my business has always been around trying to support my family and make our dreams come true and show my kids what you can accomplish if you want to put some work in. So
it's
that's
got
where
some
that first
meaning
started.
to it.
Yeah.
That's nice. How did you feel when you were faced with moving a fairly new business from Billings to Helena?
I was actually pretty excited. So when we moved from Billings, I had only been full-time in my business for about 4 or 5 months at that point. Not very long at all. I'd had it since 2018, so it'd been almost about 3.5 years. So it wasn't a terribly new business. I'd started to figure out these different things I was passionate about with branding and for business owners and things like that. But I was only barely getting connected into the business community in Billings. I mean, I grew up there, but it's very different when you're growing up as, a high schooler and a kid versus a business owner.
Becoming an adult, getting involved in the community.
Yeah, you meet totally different people and get to see, that town from a totally different perspective. And it was hard to leave some good connections there, but I was still fairly new, that I wasn't completely starting over. And I'd been very lucky that up to that point, most of my clients were not local. And so I just had to change my address. And nice. I can still do my job wherever.
Right.
So it wasn't terribly hard to move. I had made one decision not long after I went full-time to join Biz to Biz. And
Which is where we met.
Yeah, that's where we met. Just a networking group. And I paid for that. It was a lot of money at the time. Right. And then we moved to Helena. I said, well, I don't want to waste $500. Let me see if I can just transfer over here. And right before we moved, met, Vicky with Dinners Done Right and got connected with you guys. The first thing I did when we moved here was come check you out and join the group. And
you fit in just perfectly instantly. You made a big impact.
I like to think so. We'll see if people agree or not, but I've really enjoyed the group. And
leave a comment on whether you think she fit in with our Biz to Biz group. So that's awesome. Now your design work is so awesome. You do lots of different services for people. What's your favorite service when you're working with somebody helping build their brand?
That's hard. That's like asking to choose a favorite kid, which for me right now is easy. But as much as I love the design side of things, I love brand strategy because it gives you purpose and direction behind every other decision you make in your business. When I work with my clients on brand strategy, we start with, what are your goals? Where are you wanting to take your business? When I sit down with someone for a consultation, I will ask them if we were to meet up in 3 years for lunch or coffee and everything has just gone amazing in your business. It is everything you want it to be. you're perfectly happy. What has happened in 3 years to make you so happy and content with your business? And people will say everything from, growing a team. A lot of people want to have more time, be able to outsource some of their work, or they have regular clients, X amount of money every month, that sort of thing. And it's really cool getting to talk to them and see where they really want to take their business and what's most important to them. Because a lot of times when we think about growing a business, a lot of people associate that with money. Oh, I want to make so much money and then I'll be happy. But a lot of people also have priorities around family and time and freedom and flexibility. And I mean, that's why I quit my full-time job. I was not making the same money in my business as I was making at that full-time job, so that was scary, but it gave me the flexibility and the time to be with my family, which was more important to me. And so to be able to help people have a vision of where they want to take their business to help them get to those goals that are sometimes more important than the money is just very fulfilling. And we focus on everything from who their ideal clients are, at the surface level, like their demographics, how much money they make, all that kind of stuff, down to their deeper needs, what emotions and motivating factors guide their decision-making processes. So then when you're working on creating experience for those clients, you are meeting all of their needs and not just what they're actually coming and spending money with you for.
Sure.
And a lot of people leave with clarity and direction and confidence, ideas of exactly what kind of information their clients need, what questions they might have, so they can kind of read their clients' minds a little bit, answer their questions before they have to ask. And it's really cool seeing people's confidence grow, and just see where they take their businesses from there. I feel like a proud mom sometimes watching my little branding clients go off and do really big things.
Let's get specific. I know you've worked with a lot of businesses here in town. Could you tell us about one?
Sure. So if we're talking local, I worked with Vicki Bowman with Dinners Done Right. And
you crushed that one, by the way.
Thank you. That was a really fun project. She was my first client that has actually had like a storefront, products and things like that. So there was so much more to where her brand visuals could be used, which is exciting for me. A lot of my clients are typically service-based businesses. That's just who it's been in the past. But she has her storefront and every sticker and receipt and all sorts of stuff. So it was just a lot of fun. But I'm not sure how familiar you are with the history of Dinners Done Right.
Quite.
But, it's been a franchise.
Did she design that old logo?
No. Okay. So she bought the franchise location here in Helena and just pretty quickly became the only location left. So she owns the franchise now. And that's the logo they'd had for about 15 years. And I believe she'd had another logo designed at some point, but it just didn't sit right. It didn't feel right, so they just kept the old stuff. And then we met and talked about her goals and where she wanted to take her business. And the biggest thing is that some people still associate Dinners Done Right with how the business used to be run, which was a come in, do your own meal prep, leave with a bunch of meals that you made sort of thing. And it's now changed where it's done for you, meal prep. You can order your meals, customize everything, that sort of thing, or just come in and buy something out of the fridge or freezer. And she would still get people that come in and be like, oh, I thought you still, or, that old way. I was so excited to finally get to do a meal. And she's like, well, I mean, we changed a while ago and we used to do that, but I never saw you. So it's like, it was interesting that there were people that still saw the old logo and assumed nothing had changed, even though she had done so much work to change everything about the business except the logos. And even though I tell people that logos aren't everything, if that's all that people see when they drive by and nothing changes, why would anyone think that anything was different? And so that was one of the big motivating forces behind why she wanted to rebrand, and just, bring it up to date, a fresh look, that sort of thing. And so hers was a lot of fun. A lot of the things we focused on came around that fresh feel. She focuses a lot on fresh ingredients, pulling locally when she can, really tailoring things to their clients and having that fresh, healthy, clean feel to her dishes so that you can feel really good about what you're giving your family. And that was one of the big visions behind the rebrand. And so when we then finished all the strategy work and all felt cohesive and that it met the needs of her ideal clients, then we started looking at the visuals And when I work with my clients, the visuals are kind of a secondary piece of the strategy. Even though people usually come to me for the visuals, it ends up being a supporting tool, which is really what they should be when we're talking about creating an overall brand for your business.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to carry through some of those same things like freshness, bright, positive, like, energy, and things like that. And so going with some more organic colors, and things like that, and the leaves and that sort of thing, creating that homey feel that inspired some of the font selections and things like that, to bring it all together to create this logo package that then supports the strategy that we worked on. So now when they make posts on social media, or if they made videos or different promotional content, they know what their message is, and it's crystal clear and written down, and she could add more people to her team, get a marketing person, someone to do a new website or whatever, and she could give them this 40-page strategy document and her style guide and say, this is who we are. And then, there'll probably still be some minor tweaking, but for the most part, they know what her brand is, which is really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And it does, it changes the way I look at her food when I see her logo, and the sign. I didn't feel like her old logo really represented their business definitely as well as the new one. But when I drove by and I got to see that new sign out front of her store, I don't even think I knew that you were working together at first. And I'm like, that looks so much more like her business and better. It just is such a nice logo. So good job.
Thank you. Yeah, she has this very welcoming, friendly, kind of homey feel to the brand. I've been in there when she's greeted clients by name, asked them about different things of their lives, and she gets to know her clients and really cares about them and creates this personal connection. And then all their food is fresh, and they prep it all themselves. So there's a lot of those aspects that I'm hoping this rebrand really brings to light that really makes Dinners Done Right so unique. But then the old branding, when we were talking about it, there's a lot of kind of kitschy things you can do when you're talking about restaurants and food prep things. Like you can just do a fork or a cloche, like the cover that would go over food.
Okay.
But a lot of people don't.
Called that.
Yeah, and not many people do, and that doesn't feel homey and familiar and inviting. It feels like fancy high-end restaurant, white gloves, butler kind of stuff. And the chef's hat doesn't necessarily fit that homey feel either. And so it's interesting when you use strategy and you figure out what your brand really does feel like and the personality of it and what's really important and what you want people to get out of it. You can then look at your visuals and say, okay, are these actually supporting what we're trying to create here with our brand?
Yeah. You would think this episode was sponsored by Dinners Done Right. Vicky, let's talk. Yeah. But no, I'm getting really hungry for her Italian soup that she makes. That stuff's the bomb. But yeah, good work, Emma. It's, I got to look at her guidebook that you guys made together, and I know you pushed her to think deep on who is her ideal client and those questions that sometimes when we're starting a business we don't have time to ask ourselves.
I think she wanted to smack me at one point, because when we talk about your ideal clients, it's like we talk about the surface level things and maybe their personality and things like that, and then I turn to them and ask, now why are they that way?
Yeah.
Why do they want to live in Helena? Why do they like this? Why does that drive them crazy? And sometimes it's I don't know, it just doesn't. No, let's figure out why. So it makes you think a little bit. It can be frustrating, but
yeah, well, it's nice to have someone holding your hand through that process, because I've tried to do that a bunch by myself, and it is frustrating. It's not my forte to ask why and get deep. But
and I can tell you, doing it for yourself is really hard. With the rebrand that we did for myself, I went through the full strategy process. I have a style guide, all that kind of stuff. And it is so much harder doing strategy work for yourself because you know every aspect of your business. So it sometimes helps having someone outside the jar that can read the label and put the pieces together. So it's hard to do it for yourself.
Yeah, you don't know your own blind spots. So Emma, you offer valuable service. If somebody wanted to do work with you, how would they find you?
Yeah, so you can find us online at somedaydesignstudio.com. That's SOMEDAY. Or I'm on Instagram at somedaydesign.brands. You can also find me at different networking groups around town, and Yeah, so website, there's inquiry forms on there. People can reach out that way. You can see more about the services and that sort of thing. And I always just love to get together with people, even if they're not sure if they're ready or able to invest in what I offer, to just sit down and talk about where they want to take their business.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, that's nice because, if somebody wants to meet with you, they don't really want to commit to something if they're not so sure, but to just have that conversation without any pressure can be nice.
Yeah, so. I always tell people that, my job is to educate first and foremost. I want to help educate my clients on what branding really is and how they can use it to grow their businesses in a way that they couldn't do on their own. But then also, I like to help you know your options. And if brand strategy and design is not right for your business, where you're at right now, I'm not going to make you spend money on it.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather you get what your business actually needs. So if we leave our consultation or conversation with you knowing your options, even if it's not working with me, then I've done my job.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of the Helena Hustle Podcast. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. That helps others find the show, and we greatly appreciate it. Once again, thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you in the next episode of the Helena Hustle Podcast.